Adventurous kids explore with education and learning what a wild life is in the Everglades. I want to explore the Museum of Discovering Science. What plants do butterflies like? I want to know about Key West. Adventurous kids, learning and fun. Adventurous kids!
Today we're going to
tell you about bees. Bees are flying insects closely related to wasps and ants, known for their role in pollination and, in the case of the best-known bee species, the western honeybee, for producing honey and beeswax.
There are about 20,000 different species of bees in the world. Honeybee colonies consist of a single queen, hundreds of male drones, and 20,000 to 80,000 female worker bees. Bees live in colonies that contain the queen bee, the worker bee, and the drone. The worker bee and the queen bee are both female, but only the queen bee can reproduce. The queen can live up to 5 years. She is busiest in the summer months, where she can lay up to 2,500 eggs a day. All drones are male. Worker bees clean the hive, collecting pollen and nectar to feed the colony, and they take care of the offspring. The average worker bee lives for just 5 to 6 weeks. During this time, she'll produce around a 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey. The drone's only job is to mate with the queen. The queen's only job is to lay eggs. When summer ends and no more young are needed, worker bees force the drone bees out of the hive where they die.
Bees store their venom in a sac attached to their stinger, and only female bees sting. That is because their stinger, called an ovipositor, is part of the female bee's reproductive design. Bees sting only when provoked, and they die after they sting, except the queen bee, which she can sting as many times as she wants to without dying. A queen bee uses her ovipositor to lay eggs as well as sting. Sterile females, also called worker bees, don't lay eggs. They just use the ovipositors to sting.
Bees see all colors except the color red. That and their sense of smell help them find the flowers they need to collect pollen. Each bee has 170 odorant receptors, which means they have one serious sense of smell. Not only is pollen a food source for bees, but also some of the pollen is dropped in flight, resulting in cross-pollination. The relationship between the plant and the insect is called symbiosis.
Africanized killer bees look a lot like regular honeybees. They have different wing measurements. Africanized bees live in South America and the western and southern United States, and have been known to chase people for over a quarter of a mile once they get excited and aggressive. Even though they are called killer bees, their venom is no more dangerous than regular honeybees. However, these bees tend to attack in larger numbers, which pose a greater danger to humans, especially those who are allergic to bee stings. Africanized bees can only sting once because their stingers are barbed and tear off when they try to get away.
Honeybees live in large families and are found all over the world. Honeybees are not native to the Americas, but were introduced by European settlers. The first introductions are believed to have occurred in the early to mid-1600s by English and Spanish settlers. The honeybee is the only social insect whose colony can survive many years. That is because they huddle together and eat honey to keep themselves alive during the winter months. Honeybees pollinate more than 100 crops in the U.S. Their wings flap 11,000 times per minute, which is why it sounds like they are buzzing. Honeybees can only sting once, because their stingers are barbed and tear off when they try to get away. Honeybees are also brilliant boogiers. To share information about the best food sources, they perform their waggle dance. When the worker returns to the hive, it moves in a figure of 8 and waggles its body to indicate the direction of the food source.
Buzz, 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 buzz. These are amazing builders and well known for hexagonal structures found in their nests. The structure of bees' nests cousins inspired many artists, architects, and scientists. Honeybees use caves, rock cavities, and hollow trees as natural nesting sites. In warmer climates, they may occasionally build an exposed hanging nest.
Bees start making honey, which is their food, by visiting flowers. They collect a sugary juice called nectar from the blossom by sucking it out with their tongue. Honeybees must gather nectar from 2 million flowers to make 1 pound of honey. They store it in what's called their honey stomach, which is different from their food stomach. When they have a full load, they fly back to the hive. There, they pass it on through their mouths to other worker bees who chew it for about half an hour. It's passed from bee to bee until it gradually turns into honey. Then the bees store it in honeycomb cells, which are like tiny jars made of wax. The honey is still a bit wet, so they fan it with their wings to make it dry out and become more sticky. When it's ready, they seal the cell with a wax lid to keep it clean. So that's how bees make honey. They don't make very much of it, though. It takes at least 8 bees all their life to make 1 single teaspoonful. 1 honeybee has to fly about 90,000 miles, 3 times around the globe, to make 1 pound of honey. Honeybees have been producing honey in the same way for 150 million years.
Honey is incredibly healthy and includes enzymes, vitamins, minerals. It's the only food that contains phenocybin, an antioxidant associated with improved brain functioning. Honey has antiseptic properties and was historically used as a dressing for wounds and first aid treatment for burns and cuts. Honey has always been highly regarded as a medicine. It is thought to help with everything from sore throats and digestive disorders to skin problems and hay fever.
Propolis is a sticky substance that bees collect from the the buds of trees. Bees use propolis to weatherproof their hive against drafts or in spots where rain might leak in.
Royal jelly is a milky substance produced in a special gland in the worker bee's head. For her whole life, the queen is fed royal jelly by the workers.
Globally, there are more honeybees than other types of bee and pollinating insects. So, it is the world's most important pollinator of food crops. It is estimated that 1/3 of the food that we consume each day relies on pollination, mainly by bees, but also by other insects, birds, and bats. The greatest contribution of bees and other pollinators is the pollination of nearly 3/4 of the plants that produce 90% of the world's food. 1/3 of the world's food production depends on bees, i.e., every third spoonful of food depends on pollination.
Sadly, over the past 15 years, colonies of bees have been disappearing, and the reason remains unknown, referred to as colony collapse disorder. Billions of honeybees across the world are leaving their hives, never to return. In some regions, up to 90% of bees have disappeared. We can help bees by planting bee-friendly flowers and flowering herbs in your garden. Don't use chemicals and pesticides to treat your lawn or garden, and understanding that bees aren't out to sting and get you.
Now here are some bees in a tree at Arthur R. Marshall Loxahatchee National Wildlife Refuge.
Thanks for watching.
This episode of Adventurous Kids.